I'm in the Gillette studio with our guest Heather Turner. We're here at the Senior Nationals in Quebec City. Heather, welcome to the studio. It's nice to have you here.
Thanks so much, Rod. Nice to be here.
So, Heather, you're one of Canada's officials from there. You're here at the Nationals, officiating here at this campaign. I see you at most of the big events officiating. Is this something that you evolved yourself into? You missed a meeting and suddenly you were an official. How did this work out for you?
Well, not quite. I did dive for a number of years, not that long, and mostly at university and then summers in Regina with Kathy Seaman as my coach. So I'm proof that that she was a coach, and she's proof that I was a diver. And then I started coaching a little bit, and then had two small children, and thought these hours don't work when you also have a full-time job. So I started judging, and I've been doing that since mid-'80s.
Is that because it's something that you really wanted to stay involved in the sport? You appreciated the sport that much?
It's a really good way to stay involved without the commitment of a job or as an athlete. So I have some choice as to which meets I can attend based on my other schedule, my other responsibilities.
The life which involves a career in Parks and Rec in North Vancouver and the rest of,
Paid job.
One of his paid positions. Let's talk about the officiating a little bit from there. Real curious how you guys respond to some of the increases of the intricate kind of dives that you're seeing now. I mean, 5 years ago you weren't seeing front 4.5s, and now you're seeing front 4.5s in pike. Talk about the evolution of some of those dives from a judging perspective.
Well, that's interesting. I mean, I think good technique is good technique, whether it's a front 1.5 or a front 4.5, and we're looking for a lot of the same elements regardless of the degree of difficulty of the dive. In fact, when we judge, we don't consider the degree of difficulty. At least we're not supposed to. Of course, we're impressed when someone does a very difficult dive very well. We have the opportunity to go as high as 10 points, and that's a very cool thing that we get to do.
What's the difference for you between a 9.5 and a 10?
You know what? A 10 for me is almost like an emotional reaction. So a dive, I don't really have to think about it. I don't really have to dissect it. When I see a 10, which I did last week, I just knew. It was like, I don't know how that could have been done much better. I couldn't see anything to deduct for, and it was a 10. And it's an incredible feeling to be able to give that.
That's amazing. Someone once said, and I don't know who it was, but it was kind of like the hairs on the back of your neck stand up, then it's got to be a 10, no question.
Absolutely. When I have given a 10, I have no doubt that it's worth a 10.
And so would your audience as well, and most athletes too, that emotional response to hitting what's called perfection in this sport.
Exactly. It's I can only imagine what that feels like as a diver. I certainly was nowhere near that myself. But as a judge, it's incredible. And I was on a panel last week where we gave straight 10s.
I was at a World Championships, you probably recall this, in Melbourne, 2007. There were 3 athletes at the top of the order that went 10s, almost 10s right across the board, maybe there. And then Jose Guerra from Cuba found himself in 12th position, so he started the next round from there, and he started that round with 10s across the board. It was like you hadn't heard that many 10s all year long, and there were 4 divers that went 10s across the board all the way through.
Yeah, and there are some events as well that, I mean, the divers feed off each other, and they feed off good scores. So if we reward good dives with good scores, it actually means that there will be more good dives. It happens.
I saw an event very recently that I think that was exactly the case. They were performing really well, and the judges were gifting them, not in a sense of over generous, but correctly from the athlete's perspective, and the whole competition seemed to be elevated.
It does, and that's, I mean, if you see an event where good dives are getting 7.5 and 8 instead of the category 8.5 to 9.5, which sorry, very good. That's our scale is 8.5 to 9.
Talk about that scale. Sorry to interrupt, but you have 3 or 4 scales, groupings that you're looking at now, that you're trying to get younger officials or new officials to categorize the dives.
Yeah, there are. I mean, it's a bit detailed to go into, but we have specific categories that starts with, I mean, failed dive or incomplete dive that goes up to excellent, and excellent is a 10, and in between we have very good, satisfactory, deficient, unsatisfactory, and the numbers that correspond with those. And it actually helps us if we think about if your gut response is that a very good dive, excellent, or good, it actually helps you in the scoring.
And within each category, then, you have a range of scores. So pick a good dive is a range of
7 to 8.
And then a very good dive?
8.5 to 9.5. And excellent is 10.
Of course, the 10. So very good is all the way up to a 9.5.
Yes. Yes.
And I have spoken with other officials who aren't as experienced, who are saying that those groupings or categories, they're actually finding it easier to assess the dives because they have the categories to go rather than the range of 0 to 10.
Yes.
It's the 4 categories.
Yeah, it's helpful, especially if you're thinking about, for instance, is it an 8 or an 8.5? Well, 8 is in the good category, 8.5 is in the very good category. So there, and also in the satisfactory or unsatisfactory, is it a 5 and above or is it an under a 5? That's where, for me, those two areas are where I find the categories most helpful.
Heather, I'm going to let you go. I know we have an event coming up from there. I wanted to thank you for coming into the Gillette studio and spending time with us and sharing that insight. Heather Turner.